what are the things that K-pop fans are doing that are damaging more than helping the industry and their biases? Okay, one would be the obsession over YouTube views. I don't. A lot of fans actually equate the success of the act, either the band or the group, to the number of views they're getting from YouTube. And the truth is that it's an indicator of success. It's one of the many indicators of success, but it is not the only indicator of success. It's not even the biggest indicator of success. Do remember that YouTube views may be manipulated. There are ways for one person to be able to stream 100 times and all of those to be counted. So it's not the biggest indicator of success, and it is not the only major indicator of success. Next would be Twitter trend. It's almost the same thing. People are working so hard to trend their names of their biases on Twitter. You know, an album goes out, it has to trend on Twitter. They go to the airport, they have to trend on Twitter. And again, people are missing the fact that Twitter trend may be manipulated. And if people are keeping tabs on what the negotiations, what's happening with the negotiations of Twitter and Elon Musk, because Elon Musk wants to buy Twitter, he asked for the data because he wants to know, number one, he wants Twitter to have 1 billion users. He said by now, after this long, Twitter should have 1 billion users. And if you don't have 1 billion users, there's something wrong. So he wanted to get the actual number of real accounts that are on Twitter. And he found out that there's so many bots out there. And so a lot of the numbers and the trends on Twitter are actually manipulated and are being influenced by bots. So it's not the only indicator of success of anything. Okay, next is the ridiculously long achievements. There's so many parameters in an achievement, and I feel like it's all because the fans really want to give their biases some sort of an achievement, and so to be able to do that, they just put a lot of parameters in there. It's like the first K-pop idol born in 2000 that have size 7 shoes, that is the youngest in their family, that came from Busan and is a member of 5-member group. It's like, does that even count? It's not anymore. It's not just about the first girl group or the first boy band or the first act or whatever. No, they have to put in 100 parameters in there just so they could give something to their idols. And I credit that just there's if you just stick to the biggest achievements, then the major categories, then it will be dominated by one by one or two. So I feel like just because they want to credit or to give a certain amount of achievement to their idols, they're just making up all of these parameters. Okay, next is judging before understanding. I think a lot of people would assume that when an idol does something, they meant something. So for example, one of the biggest I think one of the things that really saddened me in one of the biggest events that caused me a lot of sadness is what happened to Suga when he launched his second album, and he included a clip of Jim Jones' speech. Everyone said, oh, his not everyone, but many people said that he was glamorizing Jim Jones and he was justifying his actions. And I'm like, no. In many of the art, in movies, for example, there's rape, there's child abuse, there's crime, whatever, but it doesn't mean that they're glorifying that act. It's just that it's a part of the narrative and they need to include those things in order to tell the story. So just because something, a song included a bad thing, a curse or whatever, it doesn't mean that they're glorifying that thing. It's just part of the narrative. They need to include all of that because it's part of the narrative. The next is actually connected to that, and that is that they usually throw their idols under the bus just to be known as a woke person. So let's be concrete about that. The most recent of which is Lisa of Blackpink. when of course, she was rapping in her song, and she was wearing braids, and so everyone was there were some people, not everyone, some people were accusing her of cultural appropriation, and some of her fans just agreed, like, oh, she appropriated the culture, didn't even bother to check. And the fact is that braid is not owned by any other culture. Dreads is not owned by any other culture, by a single culture. It's been around for so long that it's hard to determine who actually owns it. So nobody owns it. Anyone can put their hair on dreads. Anyone can put their hair on braids. Nobody owns it. It's been used for so long that and there's evidence of that. So nobody owns it. So I think next time that when somebody is being accused of cultural appropriation, of racism, people need to check. Next is that fans would actually would demand the company to give their idols better screen time, better clothes, more projects, but rarely do I hear fans demanding better music and better lyrics. And it's odd because this is the music industry, right? Idols are actually singers. So maybe you should also include that. If you're protesting for better clothes, you should also protest for better music. Okay, but it's just a little wish list on mine. Next is that they fail to recognize that the best way to honor their idol is to actually live their message. There's a lot of talk about this group talking about confidence, compassion, love, forgiveness, and then their fans do nothing but wage war on other people and curse on other people. It's like you're not doing a very good job listening to the idol, to your favorite group or to your bias. So I think people should realize that the best way to pay tribute to your favorite group is to actually live their message. If their message is about compassion, forgiveness, love, then do that. Don't wage war on everybody on Twitter or anywhere that you go. So just because somebody criticizes your bias doesn't mean that it's all about hate, right? It's just maybe they're just criticizing it because they really don't. Maybe it's critical. It's a critical comment rather than a destructive one. So those are some of the things that I find a lot of K-pop fans do that are harming the industry and harming their idols more than helping them.